Hello everyone.
Conference will now be recorded.
Any doubts from previous topics? So we are into conversions and interface. So today we are going to discuss about one of the interface technique, batch input method. So previous session we discussed how do we use BAPI as part of interface technique to upload data to SAP database table. And today we are talking about batch input process. So why we are talking about batch input process? Because already I have said batch input process is not recommended because during the upgrade times this process may not work. But still, why we are talking about batch input? Because for all the cases we may not get BAPIs created available. Few transactions we may not have BAPIs available. So when we will not have the BAPIs available, so we need alternative solution to implement logic to update flat file data to SAP database table. Then as part of alternative, we were talking about batch input process. So in batch input process, there are two sections we have, two types. One is call transaction and another one is session. So recording is a common process which used for call transaction and session. What is call transaction process? What is session process? For example, you have received from business a small amount of data in the flat file to upload to the SAP database table. And the data what you received in the file which belongs to single transaction code. At that moment, you will choose call transaction process. Okay, when you receive small amount of data and that to a single transaction related, and also user saying that I need, if any error occurred, I need an email to be sent with the error details. So in that case, we will choose call transaction process. And at the same moment, you received a file. That file is having multiple transactions data. And if any error occurred, they wanted to do it inside the system. So they need a log created for the errors. So in that scenario, we will choose session process. So call transaction, session or working way is similar. Both uses the same processes, but only the difference is call transaction will be used only to update single transaction data. Session process will be used wherever you have a requirement to upload single or multiple transaction data. So totally it is depends on business request. If business saying that they need an emails whenever any error occurred, so you have to choose call transaction. If business is saying I need a log created for the errors, then you have to choose session process. By using call transaction process, only one transaction data from flat file you can upload to SAP database. But by using session process, we can upload single transaction data as well as we can upload multiple transaction data. But what is the difference, main difference of call transaction session is session process, there is a session will create separately. By using that session, we can upload data to SAP database table, and errors also, we can see what is the error happened. Log will be created for the errors. But call transaction process, we may not get errors separate log. So you need to get errors and fill in the internal table called BDCMSG collection. So you need to write a logic to display these errors into your program. That is the differences of call transaction and session. And this is a alternative process. As I said, when you got a requirement to upload file data to SAP database, and that particular file which belongs to a T code, and that T code related, you didn't find any BAPI is available. So you need to choose this as a alternative process. So now, let's say we received a file from business. The file is having information about a transaction code called ME51. So ME51 is a transaction. By using that, we can create purchase requisitions. So business was given a flat file which is contained purchase requisition data. Now business is asking you to develop a program. By using that program, they wanted to process this purchase requisition information. So directly they will simply enter this file as an input and they will execute. Once they execute, whatever the data they have given, automatically it will be get updated to the SAP database. So when you have this requirement, first thing, as I said before, first you go and search for the BAPI. If BAPI is there, then you can use BAPI to upload data as like bank information. If in case you don't find any BAPI exist, then as an alternative option, go with the call transaction or session. So call transaction will be chosen when you need to upload single transaction and messages will be collected separately. So here the business requirement is to they have sent one single transaction data and they need errors to be collected separately. Then we have to choose call transaction process to fill this requirement. If you observe this, we have a input selection screen where user can enter the file from the presentation server. Actually, the file which is in presentation server, user will select that file where a file contains the data. And then we have one more input mode. What is mean by this mode is nothing but how you wanted to process this information into SAP database table. You wanted to process this information in the file information in a foreground mode or background mode. What is mean by foreground or background is this call transaction process, session process uses T code. So whatever file information you have given, this file information will be sent to the T code ME51. From the T code, data will get updated. So your file is having 5 entries. So if mode is chosen foreground mode, one by one record will go to the screen. From the screen, data will be updated. So that process you can see with your own eyes, and you have to process each and every screen step. But processing of 5 records is simple, but if the file is having 50,000 records, you have to enter so many times through the screens. That is a very big task. So whenever you have a huge amount of data, mode will be chosen as background mode. Background mode means your program will consider this data into the system and then it will process one by one record to screen without your intervention, and data will be updated to the database table. So only you can see a message saying that data is updated. So that is mode purpose. So if you need foreground mode, you can select foreground mode, that is A. If you don't want it to go manually through the screens and you need to execute at a time, then you can choose mode as N. N means background mode. So here what you see is the call transaction process related program. So I'll explain you this separately. But before going to the program level, we need to first understand one main concept called recording. So call transaction or session method both uses recording process. What is this recording process? Is recording is the process where how system is processed your transaction level inputs that will be recorded. So that information is required to perform the process automation. So what is that automation? I'll show you in the system. So let me go to the SAP system. So previously we have created bank, right? Bank T code is FI01. So by using FI01, we can create the bank by enter the inputs. As like bank creation, we if you want to create purchase requisitions, you can use ME51 transaction. So in ME51 transaction, you have to provide your inputs so that bank purchase requisition will be created. What is the material number we have? So I'll use M0 fund quantity 10 and plant 1000. So let me save. Yeah, purchase requisition was created. So if your business was given a file where your file is contained hundreds of purchase requisition, let's assume. So when you business given a flat file which is having 100 purchase requisitions, which means 100 purchase requisitions has to be created in the database. So when you have the file, first you just go and ask your business or functional how they are going to create the purchase requisition. Then they will go show you how they will create the purchase requisition in the steps, because you know English, and the person who is explaining, that functional guy or the business person, he know English. So because of the language is not the barrier, so he can explain, so saying that execute ME51 and then provide the document type, after that provide the material quantity and plant, finally save. So these are the steps to perform purchase requisition creation. So initially you don't know, because of functional explanation you understand how to create the purchase requisition. Now the same way, if you are aware, you are not aware of how to create, then someone explained so that you created, right? So now your task is, as a abapper, now you have to speak to the computer or the system, saying that execute ME51 transaction, enter document type, and then provide material quantity and plant information. So these details you have to spoke to the system. So on behalf of you, system has to perform these actions. So how system can perform? Because the system only understood programming language. So to speak with the system, saying that execute ME51, enter this document type, and then enter material. So all this communication, how you can spoken with the system is by giving the technical details of the information to the system. What is this technical details is, you have to provide a program name, screen number. So what is the program name this particular transaction is running, and the screen number, what is the screen number of that particular field where you are entering, and what is the field where you are providing the inputs. So all these details you need to provide in a stepwise to the system. So when you provide this information, giving the program name, screen number, field name, with this information, system will do on behalf of you. It will call ME51 and it will process enter value DNB document type, and then it will enter material, quantity, and plant, and finally it will click on save. So, so to understand the technical understanding of the transaction, so whatever you have done, that is a process someone was guided to you, so you achieved. But now you need to speak to the system, but system only understand technical communication. So if you can't speak with the system in English language, right? You have to speak with the system in programming language. So how can you communicate to the system, execute this transaction, enter the values? So that understanding how you need to convey this information to the system is, there is a transaction code we have. So by using the transaction code, we can grab the system understandable language. So that transaction code is SHDB. So SHDB is a transaction which is called recording related. So what we do with this transaction is, we will get the technical terminology from to spoken with the system of any transaction code. So what you have to do is, how normally you will create ME51. So same thing you need to create here. So when you are creating backend, what is the technical language for system, which is captured by this recording process. So now I will show you how system, this recording process will capture the technical understanding. So first execute SHDB and then click on new recording. So here provide your recording name. So I am giving as ME51, GME51, and enter your transaction code ME51 and then click on start recording. So when you click on start recording, it was taken you to ME51. So it is started recording of process. After enter the transaction, then what you have to do? You need to click on enter and provide a material number and provide quantity and then plant information. After that, save and again enter. Now you can see this is the back end, what system was understood when you do the manual process. So first what you have done, you called ME51 transaction. So first what we have done, we have called ME51 transaction. This is the first step. ME51 transaction was called. And when the ME51 transaction was called, so you have passing a value NB, right? So NB is the value you are passing to a field BSART. And this particular field is on which program? So if you go to F1 technical settings, so you can see SAP MM06B is the program, and this is the screen and field name. So field name, screen field name, where the value is in EBAN BSART. So EBAN BSART, we have NB. So what recording was captured is, when ME51 transaction was called, what is the program behind that, what is the screen number, and this is the initial start of the screen, and then what is the field which is having value, and along with that some default values like delivery date. Also delivery date is T, and cursor. So there is a cursor which is blinking, right? This cursor is in which field? This is on BSART document type field. And after that, in the screen, what you have done, you just clicked on enter. So OK code is nothing but what is the action you have done on the screen. So /00 is the technical terminology of your enter operation. After enter, what is happen, another screen is open. So this is another screen number is 106. Now we are in 106 screen. So where what you have entered, you entered material number, you enter quantity, and then you have entered plant information. So these three you have done, right? So plant. So after entering these details, you just clicked on save. So here, this is the second screen. In the second screen, where is the cursor? Cursor is at plant position. and what is the values you have given? Material number, quantity, and plant information. After that, what you have done, you just clicked on save. So save related OK code is equal to BU. So after click on save, previously when recording was doing, so you got a one more screen. So that is the screen number. So in that screen, what you have done, you have nothing done in the screen. So you just clicked on enter. That's all. So whatever manually you have done in the screen transaction level, system was recorded technical understanding. So with the use of this technical understanding, you can write a code so that system what it does is it will call this transaction and then pass values one by one to the transaction. So what we are doing is whatever business is doing manual process that we are automating. So we have the file. So file data needs to be updated to SAP database through the transaction. So how file data will be passed to the transaction? There are two chances. One first way is give this file data to a business end user. He will sit in front of the system and then he'll call ME51. He will pass one by one record. That is the manual work. So if records are more, then it is a difficult task for end user to process one by one record through the transaction. So in that case, what ABAPer he will do, the same process he will record. He will record the same process what we are doing, and by using that recording, he will create a program. So with this recording, system will call the transaction how normally end user is doing manually in calling the transaction. Same way system also call transaction, and then it will process information to the screen, and through the screen it will update information to SAP database. So that is the importance of recording. So once you recording was done, you can generate a program. Program will be generated recording export, not export, save. What is this process? No. Edit, go to where we have this one. So we have saved, right? So let's go back. So this is our recording GME51. So select that and then click on program. So it will generate a program, G program ME51. And you can select transfer from recording. Transfer from recording, continue. So this is program to upload purchase requisition data, and type is executable. Click on source code, save as local object. So now program was created automatically. So in this, what you need to observe is there is a perform called BDC Dyne Pro. So BDC Dyne Pro and BDC field. So BDC Dyne Pro, incorrect, you want to try again, yes, display. So BDC Dyne Pro, you have program name, screen number, and screen where it is begin. And BDC field. So BDC field, you have field name and field value. So by using these 5 parameters, program, screen number, screen where it is begin, field name, and field value, what we are doing, we are creating one internal table called BDC data. So this BDC data internal table, we are getting filled with the technical understanding, technical recording. During the recording, we have the technical values, right? That technical values we are recording this BDC data internal table. We are filling with this internal table. So this BDC data internal table, which is used to update values to ME51 transaction. So first we will update values to BDC data internal table, and by using BDC data internal table, we will pass one by one record to ME51 transaction, and ME51 will be updated. So this is system generated. So this system generated program you have to modify and use for your convenient way. So for a time being, I have already modified and we have a program already designed. I'll copy that one. So, training. Conversions. So call transaction process. Let me copy this and use it. So now save, check, activate. So if you look at this program, so first part is declarations. So we are going to upload ME51 data. So for that, we need an internal table to be created to capture flat file data into our program. For that, we have created our user defined structure and we have created our internal table work area, because we need to capture flat file data into our internal table. For that reason, we have captured. And we have one more internal table, BDC data, also created. Why this BDC data internal table we have created? Because we need to fill technical properties of the transaction, because that is required to program to call ME51 and then process records. So for that reason, we have created one more internal table by reference of BDC data structure. So these structure gets filled with this information. So these information, program name, screen number, field name, field values information you are receiving through recording process. So recording process you will use and you will fill this BDC data internal table. So and for user selection, user has to get the file, right? So for user purpose, we have created inputs p underscore file and p underscore mode. So user will select the file and choose the mode. So mode is having basically two, foreground and background. A means foreground, N means background. If mode was not chosen, then we will throw an error message saying that you need to select any one of the mode. And at selection screen on value request, yesterday I shown you. So this is for providing F4 help to the P underscore file input, and F4 underscore file name, which is used to get the file from the desktop. Once you have the file, then text convert XLS to SAP. This function module will convert SAP desktop file data into your internal table. So at this moment, what we have done, we created a selection screen to choose the input file from the desktop, and F4 file name will allow the user to get the file from desktop. Text convert will convert flat file data into internal table. Now your internal table have values. So once you have data in internal table, so this is important. Once you have data, you have to populate BDC data internal table, and there is a two performs. One is to populate BDC data and one is to insert data. So in populate BDC data, what we are doing is we are populating IT BDC data internal table. So this BDC data, actually this logic which is coming from the recording process. So previously we did recording, right? So in the recording, we will get these values: program name, screen number, dine begin, field name, field values. All these things we will receive from the recording. So whatever we have received from the recording, by using that, we are filling BDC data internal table. Perform followed by fill BDC data. So this fill BDC data, what it does, it will fill the program name, screen number, and screen where it is begin to IT BDC data internal table. When it has the screen begin value. If it doesn't have the screen begin value, then it will fill field name and field value. So finally, what we are doing, we are filling BDC data internal table with these 5 parameters. Why we need to fill this data with 5 parameters? Because by using this information only, system will call ME51 and process your data. So BDC data will be population happening here. This is important. And after you have filled your BDC data internal table, then final step is you need to pass your data into ME51 transaction using ITBDC data. So in insert data, the method is call transaction, then you have to use call transaction followed by your transaction code. And what you are using ITBDC data internal table. And here you need to specify which mode it has to be executed. This mode is coming from the front end. And update process is synchronous or asynchronous, what type of update you want. So synchronous means if your ATBDC data has 10 records, so then one record will be processed into a ME51, and once it is updated, there is a acknowledgement will be received from the system and saying that update is success. Then second record will process. So without acknowledgement, another record will not process. That is called synchronous. Synchronous is a slow process because each and every record you need a acknowledgement. But we also update through asynchronous process. So asynchronous process is nothing but we don't need acknowledgement. So keep on, you will send information from your internal table to database. So you will not wait for the acknowledgement. So that process asynchronous is a faster process compared to the synchronous. But synchronous is recommended because you will get a acknowledgement. If any error happen, then next record will not be processed. That's what. So in this program, what we are doing, first step one, getting the file data into internal table. That is the step one. Step two is populating your BDC data internal table with the information what you received from SHDB recording process. And step three is calling your transaction code ME51 and passing your ITBDC data internal table information to ME51, so that system it will pass one by one record information to screens and then update data to the database. So this one I'll execute now. But to execute this, we need a file. So let me copy this BDC. So this is our file, but we have to place this file into remote desktop. So first place your file here. So I think file will not be copied. Let me create a file. Microsoft Office Excel. We don't have. So I was using Apple, right? So that's the reason. Microsoft Excel file is not opening. No problem. We will create data here in remote desktop. So first one is a document type. Document type is MB. Let me log in. ME51. So we need to provide the document type, and then we have to enter material. So material is required. Copy this. And second one is material. And third, quantity. So we have to provide quantity 10. And then we have to provide plant information 1000. So 1000. So like this, create different records. This is 5. This is 2 and this is 8 records. And do we have MI fund 02 material? So we have MI fund 02. So I'll use another material M02. And do we have MI fund 03 material? Yes, we have. So I'm using MI fund 03. Maybe 4 also we have. Let me check 4. So 4 also we have. So now I have filled my flat file with 4 records. So my expectation is now this 4 records has to be processed not normal way, like calling ME51, giving inputs, not in this way. I need this records to be processed from program. So what is that program we created? So G program call. So I'll create it. Um, 1 second. We just created. What is that program we have used? So G Sanjay call transaction. We will use this one, but let me copy the program once. Programs, conversions, call transaction process, copy, and let me paste it here. Save, check, activate. So this program Sanjay call transaction. I'm switching between normal Apple GUI versus remote desktop because in normal GUI, I don't have Microsoft original version installed. So that's the reason I'm switching back for remote desktop and here. So in remote desktop, I can able to open Excel files. So that's why. So go to your program, G Sanjay call transaction. So this is your program. Now execute. First I'll run directly. So process, give your inputs. So this is through Excel and mode I was giving as foreground mode. We'll see first in foreground mode how the data will be processed and execute. So how many records you have in Excel? 4 records. So now these 4 records will be called one by one. So this is first record. So first record is going to ME51. So you need to click enter to proceed further. So first record M01 and quantity 10. So it is created. Now second record. Second record quantity 5. So it was created. Now third record created. Fourth record created. So foreground mode means how many records you are processing through the file. So every record will be you can see with your own. So you need to process it. Foreground means. So let's say if it is having 1,000, so you need to run 1,000 times. So that is very difficult. Now what I will do, I will change the quantities. So 20, 15, and this is 20, and this is 10. Save, close the file. And now we will process through background. So background mode is N. N is the background mode. So execute now. So you can see purchase requisitions are created. So all 4 records was created. So where you can see these created records, you can see in transaction in the table. What is the purchase requisitions table? Purchase requisition table in SAP. EBAN is the table. So if you go to EBAN table, execute. So ERNAM. So ERNAM is who is created. So I'll give my name, user, number of entries. So 42 entries are there. Is there any date? So ERDAT is there. So you can sort this date. So today's date is 7/12. So in 7/12, we have created these records. How many? I guess is 8 records we have created. ERNAM. So where is ERDAT is not there. Let me check. Get this ERDAT fields for selection. So I'll add ERDAT also. Execute. And name is user. Execute. So 12 records. I think 3 I have processed before. So 2 times we have processed 4 records. So those are 8, and then 4 records we processed before BDC process. So total 12 were updated into system. And if you place a breakpoint before processing, let me place a breakpoint here. So I hope this F4 underscore file name and text convert XLS to SAP, this is you already seen. So these two is to get the data. So I'll place from after getting the data what we are doing. So get the file here, and then mode I am giving as N, background mode. Execute. So once you have the data into internal table from file, first we need to get data into internal table. Once you have the data, pass data to work area, and then fill your BDC data internal table. So BDC data internal table, now you are going to fill with the information. So F5. So first what you are filling, program name, screen begins, and screen number. So if I go here, so this is the same thing you have received in SHDB process. So this is your recording. Double click. So if you see this, same information. So whatever you received, the same information now you are going to fill at the runtime. So I'll quickly process this BDC data. So now you can see your BDC data, which is filled with 3 screens. This is the first screen, and the first screen level you are passing field BSART value NB, and in the first screen you entered enter button, and it will go to the second screen. In the second screen you have passed material number and quantity, plant information, and then you click on save, and then it will take you to the third screen where you just entered. So this is the process what you have done in the recording also. The same recording only we will use in the program to update. So this information is required to automate the process. So with this information now system will call sorry screens, and one by one record will be processed. After you fill the BDC data internal table, now call your transaction code ME51. So call ME51 transaction using your BDC data. So BDC data, which is now getting called, screens will be called and data will be processed. So this is first time. Let me execute. Because we are using background mode, right? So that's where. So execute directly. So it's created records. So now you can go. A few more records were added. Earlier it is 12. Now it will be 16 records. So here a name and the date is today. So total 16 record. So run this program and then understand how the data is uh, getting processed using the BDC. So only thing is you need to understand this BDC data internal table. So BDC data internal table is the only one you need to understand. So this internal table we are filling with these 5 parameters: program name, screen number, field name, and field value. So with this information only, your transaction getting called and the data will be processed. So this is call transaction process. The same process, but small difference with the session process. Let me copy that program. Session process. Let me copy this and add it into the system. So create a program, G Sanjay session transaction. Okay, display. Let's get into change. Control All V. Save, check, activate. So remember the program G's session transaction. Close this and log in to remote desktop. User SC38 G Sanjay session transaction. So now execute this one. So you need to provide your file. So here there is no foreground or background. Okay. So provide your file name and execute. Once you executed, your file data will be read and one session will be created. So here data will not update it to the database. So if you go to the table EBAN, once you run the program, data will not updated. So 16 records only you can see, which means now you have executed, but session is created. Data is not updated. So in session process, what is happened is data will not update. A session will create. You need to run this session unless the data will not process. The session transaction is SM35. If you go to SM35, you can see a session created with your username. So select that session and then click on process. So now you have to choose foreground mode or background mode. So I will choose background mode and click on process. So one session was transferred to background processing. Where we can see, just to refresh this one, where we have refresh. Let me rerun SM35. So now you can see session is running in the background. So if you go to the log, log is not created, means some process still going on. Number of transactions. I think we need to wait for some time. So let me rerun SM35. logs. I can see job was completed. So let me go to the log. Now you can see log is created. So click on display. Now you can see ME51 session was processed in the background mode, and these are the purchase requisitions are created. So if you go to the table now and check the number of entries, now number of entries is 20. The difference between session process and call transaction process is call transaction will directly run the transaction and update to the database. But in the session process, a session will be created. That session you have to run via SM35. So SM35 transaction through, you need to run the session. That is the only difference. And inside, if you go and see what will be the other difference is, until text convert XLS. So to get the file data into internal table, that is common. So after that, here in the session process, we have used function modules, BDC open group and BDC insert and BDC close group. So these three function modules are important. So BDC open group, what it does is, it will open one session for you to process. So GME51 is the session which is created in SM35 transaction. And after session was open, you need to fill your internal table ITBDC data. So ITBDC data, the way you filled in call transaction and here it is same. So in call transaction process, you have used call transaction, and for that transaction, you have used your internal table BDC. But here, the same internal table you will be giving to BDC insert function module. That is the only difference. So in call transaction and session, what is the difference? Call transaction, you will use statement call transaction. For that, you will pass BDC data internal table. Whereas in session process, you will use function models BDC open group, BDC insert, BDC close group. For open group, you will be going to create a session ME51, and BDC insert, you will insert your IT BDC data internal table information, and BDC close, it's like session will be closed. That is the only difference. So when you execute and give the file details, directly data will not be added into the table. It will create this session. So that session, until unless if you're not run, data will not be updated. Sessions will be run in transaction SM35. You have to choose your session and then process. Now I will process through foreground mode now. Earlier I have processed via background. Now I will process foreground. Click on process. So when you click on foreground mode, you have to enter all the values manually 4 times. So session overview. So you can select and then check the log. So select and then click on display. Now ME51 was called. Total 4 times the transaction was read, and 4 times 4 purchase requisitions are created. So if you go to here, 24 records are there. Again 4 records were added. So what you have to do is, you just copy and paste these programs I'll share with you into your editor, okay, and then execute once by placing the file into your desktop. So you need file. Without file, these programs will not work. So first place one file in your desktop and then run these programs. After that, where you need to analyze is until text convert XLS to SAP, that is common in both the programs. So you will be getting the data. So once you get the data, what you are doing? So place a breakpoint and analyze from here what function module is used and how the data was given to the BDC insert. So finally, what is happening? So place breakpoint and debug and see the process here. It's not the complex process. Only thing is understanding is important. So if you understood, uh, nothing is difficult here. Only understanding is matter. Any doubts so far?
Sir, we will have session on BAPI function module, separate.
Yes, we will have.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sanjay, what will be the use case for BDC running BDC as a session versus direct call method?
Direct call method, it will directly upload data to SAP database tables using SAP provided programs.
Okay.
Whereas BDC session or call transactions, which will upload data through transaction codes. The advantage with the transaction codes is when you are enter information, it will check for the validity, whether the data which you entered is correct or not, or the data what you entered which has any dependent information. So that kind of checks is there through the T code. So always recommended to use this transaction approach. And if you are sure 100% perfect whatever the data you are uploading to the database that is genuine, then you can also use direct input. But you don't have such an idea, so you receive just a data and as a end user you wanted to upload, then it is suggested to use BDC because your data will be processed through T codes and then validations will happen.
Okay. So you mean to say this is a validated versus a table level entry, direct table entry.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, then if no other questions, we will wind up for the day. Thank you.